So you want to be a demon slayer. So you want to absorb your enemy's energy and use it against them. Then you've come to the right class. And I know you're asking, how am I flying like this? It's actually a mount that you get after 4th job. Doesn't really help, it just looks really cool. So in the beginner tab, we get Dark Winds, which allows you to, when you jump, if you press up twice, you do a vertical jump. If you press left or right 2 times, you get a left and right jump. Also, if you press jump again while in the air, and you hold it down the second time you press it, you can glide. You can also do the vertical jump into the glide. Really mobile class, really. Just, how many times can I say really? It's so mobile. And it gets even more mobile later on, as you'll see. So, then we have Demonic Blood, which just gives you 100% knockback resistance. Curse of Fury, 1% chance to deal 100% damage when attacking. When it happens, you also regain 5% HP. And then if you kill some enemies, you'll also regain Demon Fury. So not only when you're attacking, but also when they're defeated. Going into 1st job, we get Demon Lash. This is your... how do I put it? Your main attacking skill? Sort of? It's like your basic attack. And it's very powerful. The first 2 hits both do 2 lines. The 3rd hit does 3 lines, and the 4th hit does 4 lines. Grim Scythe is your 1st job Fury skill, and Fury skills will consume the Fury that's in place of the MP. Demon Slayer's a unique case where it doesn't have MP, instead it has Fury. And what Fury is, or how you get Fury, is just by attacking enemies. The little balls, the little orbs that you see flying towards me when I attack an enemy is the Fury that I take from the enemy. And when I attack using Grim Scythe, I'm using that Demon Fury, but I can regain it just by attacking enemies. It's pretty easy. Battle Pact is just booster, gives you a 2 attack speed. And the rest are passive. Moving on to 2nd job, you get Soul Eater. And Soul Eater pretty much does the same thing as Grim Scythe, except that it sucks enemies into you, and does 5 lines. Very strong attack. Very strong. But yeah, that's pretty much what it does. Dark Thrust is a very good mobility skill. It's pretty much like Rush, except you dash through the enemy first and then push them, or and then pull them. Gives you slight invincibility, so feel free to use that when mobbing. Although you don't really need it because you have this skill, Soul Eater. And also Chaos Lock. Chaos Lock is teleport. If you press it without pressing any keys, you teleport to a random enemy. Anywhere in the map. But if you hold a key down, you'll teleport to an enemy that's somewhere in that direction. The enemy is still random, but you can choose at least a general direction to go. So if I want to teleport up, well, because these guys are elevated, because the platforms are uneven here. So I'm holding up, then I keep teleporting up. If I hold left, sometimes I'll stay on the same platform, sometimes I'll teleport down because there's an enemy, like, down left, or down right. But if I hold down, of course I teleport down, and it's just really good for general, like, getting around. It also counts as an attack, so when you teleport, you'll attack enemies and stun them. Vengeance is your 2nd buff, and when you're attacked, you return 400% damage to the enemy that attacked you. You also paralyze them if you touch them. Here, let me try to touch these guys. There we go. So just by being touched, you paralyze them for 5 seconds at a 90% chance. So that's really good. I believe it's only if you run into them though. And the rest are passive. By the way, the weapons that you can use are a one-handed axe and a one-handed mace. Or they call it a blunt weapon, but same difference. Mace, blunt weapon. So whichever one you prefer, really. In 3rd job, you get Demon Lash again. It just turns red. As you can see, mine is purple, has been purple, so that's the 4th job version, but 3rd job you get a red one. Just increases the damage. In fact, did I even talk about the second job one? Just turns orange, gives you extra damage, whatever. Judgment. Judgment was my favorite third job skill a long time ago. It just looks really cool and just... It does a lot of damage. You can also jump and cast it, but it doesn't really do anything. I don't know, whatever. The way to do that is by pressing both the skill and jump at the same time. But I'll show you how that's useful later on when I get to fourth job. But Judgment just uses up Demon Fury, a lot of Demon Fury by the way, and attacks enemies around you. I should probably mention that, as you can see, my Fury is at 170. In first job you get 30 Fury, second job you get 60 Fury. First job is 30, second job is 60, third job is 90, and at fourth job you get 120. But because, you know, later on you get hyper stats, I can increase that by 50. So, you know, because I have 170, if you get to fourth job and you only have 120, it's because you haven't hit 140 yet, so you can't see the hyper stats. But anyway. So yeah, Judgment, great skill. It also does 40% extra crit rate. So right now I believe I only have 29 crit, but when using Judgment, it's 69. This skill alone is 69% because it adds 40. Vortex of Doom. I never really used it. It just sucks enemies in from both left and right to you. So it's, you know, I never really used it. Sucks them in and stuns them. That's about it. Ravenstorm. I use this skill whenever I can, or whenever I need it. It recovers 50% of your HP and deals 5 lines to enemies that you hit with it. You don't have to hit enemies, by the way, to recover HP. You just have to throw it. And the cooldown is 10 seconds. In the future, maybe like the Arc Patch, I believe, or something like that, you get invincibility when casting it. So not only do you heal, but you also don't have to worry about taking damage. Carrion Breath. Hopefully I said that right. When you hold it down, you poison enemies around you. It eats up a lot of Demon Fury as well, so get used to that. I use that a lot when training in third job, but I think I use Judgment more. And I believe the rest are passive. When attacking an enemy that's stunned, blinded, frozen, slowed, or bound, your final damage is increased by 15%, and your crit rate is increased by 15% as well. There is a 30% chance to guard when you're attacking, and when you do guard, you regain 3% HP, and you also recover 5 Fury. And then Max Fury is just another passive that, when you're attacking with Demon Lash, there's a 75% chance that you regain an extra Fury. You also automatically recover Fury, 10 Fury every 4 seconds, which is really helpful. Alright, so moving into fourth job, you get the final upgrade to Demon Lash. Well, I mean, there's a fifth job skill that makes Demon Lash even stronger, but we'll get to that when I talk about fifth job skills. So, this is the final upgrade, it just gives you more damage. Infernal Concussion is your mobbing skill for fourth job. And I gotta say, it's really good. It's really nice. So what it does is it pops enemies into the air, and then hits them with spikes, which does, I believe, 5 lines? Yeah, 5 lines. So the initial hit will launch them into the air, and then it'll hit them with spikes that hit 5 times, but all of the spike hits are critical hits. Now remember how I was mentioning that you can jump attack? You can also jump down attack. Like jump down and use the skill. The way you do that is you hold down, and you hold either left or right, and then you press jump and the skill at the same time. That is the wrong skill. And you'll be able to use the skill while jumping down. Great demon, or an elite. Alright, give me a second to take this thing out. Actually, you know what? This is a good chance for me to show you the skills. This is a really good chance. Okay. So when attacking normal enemies, you'll notice that you get like these white orbs. I don't remember how much fury it recovers, but it's not too much. When you attack a boss, you get a purple one, and that recovers even more. So when bossing, you get even more fury. Did I explain this already? Yeah. Okay. So Demon Impact is your bossing skill. It attacks 4 enemies and does 6 lines with a 100% crit rate. It ignores 30% enemy defense and slows down enemies for 3 seconds, while also dealing 40% extra damage to bosses. That's really all that is. It's just really, really fast, really good. Good reach. It's just a really good skill overall. Demon Cry. Demon Cry does 7 hits, like 7 lines, reduces enemy attack and defense by 15% and their accuracy by 20%, but also enemies that are hit with the debuff of Demon Cry give you 20% extra EXP and drop rate. So you can see the debuff. So you can see the debuff above their head here. So those enemies are going to give me extra EXP and drop rate. It does have a 14-second cooldown, but if you use Boundless Rage, which is another skill, the cooldown is reduced by half. So I guess I'll explain Boundless Rage since I'm here already. Boundless Rage allows you to use skills without having to worry about using Demon Fury. You can just use skills without using Demon Fury. It does cost 100 Demon Fury, but like I said, you don't use any for the rest of the skills for 50 seconds. And Demon Cry's cooldown is reduced by half. So, going into Binding Darkness, it just allows you to bind enemies. That's it. The range on it is pretty good. As you can see, I bound this enemy over here and some enemies down here. So it just stops them from moving, and it's really nice. Dark Metamorphosis increases your damage by 35% and increases your HP by 20%. Also, when you are pretty much on top of an enemy, or the orbs hit the enemy, it'll do damage for you. Keep in mind, you will die to damage reflect if you have this on, without the hyper. Leech Aura is pretty much your only party skill aside from Maple Warrior. So what Leech Aura does is, when you attack, you recover 3% of the damage that you deal as HP, and that works for you and your party. But you can only heal every 5 seconds, and you can't recover more than 25% of your max HP. So I mean, it's helpful. Doesn't sound too helpful, but it's helpful. It can save you when you're in a pinch, or if a Raven is on cooldown. But it is a buff, so just use it whenever. Then the rest are passive. Okay, so moving on to hyper stats, or hyper skills, passives. Passive hyper skills. There we go. That's what I was trying to say. I added into Demon Lash to give it extra damage. The reason I did this is because in 5th job you get an upgrade to... Your 5th job skill basically allows Demon Lash to be your main attacking skill for a little bit. There's a lot of talk about the hyper passives, because depending on your level you might want to add certain things or take away certain things. A lot of people don't even see this as a useful one, but I think it's super useful. The Dark Metamorphosis Enhance, which pretty much allows you to attack through Damage Reflect and Weapon Cancel. Weapon Cancel being the skill that bosses can do that make your damage reduced to 1. You only do once to the boss. You can actually attack through that if you have this on. Although, that buff that you get only really lasts for 20% of the duration of Dark Metamorphosis. So if I use Dark Metamorphosis, you'll notice that I have these wings above my head. That means that I'm able to attack through Damage Reflect and Weapon Cancel. But some people don't find it useful. I think it's super useful. Also, remember how I said Dark Metamorphosis can get you killed by Damage Reflect? Even if this buff goes away, Dark Metamorphosis won't get me killed by Damage Reflect. I could just walk into the enemy like, oh hey, Damage Reflect, what's that? Just walk into them, and Dark Metamorphosis won't get me killed. But if I use any other attack without this being above my head, I will die. Fury Absorption, I would say you can add into that in the early levels, like 140 to maybe 200, because you do want to have more Fury. The Reinforced Duration, I had it in, but I tested it, and it didn't do too much damage. It didn't really help too much. Basically, when you use Demon Lash, for 4 seconds you get 10% extra final damage to any other skill. And I just didn't find that to be super useful. I also tested it and I did less damage. So. And then I also did Demon Impact, all of them. Because you get 20% extra damage, 1 extra line, and it costs 50% less Demon Fury. So that's what I did. I put into the Lash damage, Dark Metamorphosis, Damage Reflect, Ignore, and all 3 Demon Impacts. Moving on to the Hyperactives. Blue Blood. Very useful. It doubles your lines, so if a skill does 7 lines, it'll now do 14, if it does 5, it does 10, and so on. For 60 seconds. Really useful. The cooldown is 2 minutes though, 120 seconds, but you can reduce that cooldown by absorbing Fury. For every 50 Fury that you absorb, you reduce the cooldown by 3 seconds. Now, on top of that, if you have Boundless Rage, the skill that allows you to not use any Fury when attacking, if you have that active, every 4 seconds, the cooldown of Blue Blood is reduced by 2 seconds. So you can really get back into Blue Blood very quickly if you use your skills correctly. And then Cerberus Chomp allows you to regain 50 Fury. It does 50% damage, 50% extra damage to bosses, and ignores 50% enemies' defense. And it does 6 lines. Also has a very short cooldown, it's only 5-second cooldown. So that's very good. I kind of forgot to mention that Blue Blood's passive effect makes all skills Fury consumption reduced by 20%. So Demon Impact, which used to use 10 Fury, gets reduced by 20%, and then another 50% from the Hyper Passive. So you can just spam that all day. It's really nice. And then the 200 Hyper skill, not very useful. I mean, it is useful, but it's like every other skill. Every other class gets it. Almost every other class gets it. It's just 10% extra damage. It's whatever. So, that's about it for the skills. I think I already explained this, but I'm going to explain it again. The amount of Demon Fury you get depends on what job you're at. So first job you get 30, and then for every job advancement after that you get 30 more. I have 170 because of Hyper Stat. At 140 you unlock Hyper Stats, and I maxed out the Demon Fury one, which gave me 50 extra Demon Fury. So I have 107. And yeah. So I guess I can just show you the bossing now. Because I already showed you the mobbing. You don't need to see that anymore. Right? Yeah. Alright, so let's move on to the bossing. So when bossing as a Demon Slayer, I like to activate Boundless Fury first, then activate Blue Blood, Demon Cry, and then just attack with... what was the skill called again? Demon Impact? Yeah, Demon Impact. And if I need to recover HP, I just use the Ravens to recover HP. But otherwise, that's just how I boss with Demon Slayer. And every 5 seconds I'll use Cerberus Chomp, just to reduce the cooldown of Blue Blood. But I'm going to stop attacking now, just to allow him to do Damage Reflect, so I can show you that you can attack through Damage Reflect. Okay, so there it is. And if I activate Dark Metamorphosis, and I have this above my head, I can attack through Damage Reflect. Really nice, right? So, that's the bossing. and I'll see you in the next video.